You know, it's in some ways almost like a challenge, a weird challenge. Dress him up in a ridiculous costume and then see if he can say something profound. But, knowingly or otherwise, they put me in purple. So we should all pause for 1 second about Prince, right? I'm thinking this had something to do with Prince. All right, let's go. This thing goes on forever, right? You're musicians. You know of inflection. And it's funny how a change in inflection can change meaning. Let me give you an example. Think of a grandpa walking around with his 6-year-old grandson and saying, "So, what are you gonna be when you grow up?" And of course, the little booger lifts his head and he says, "I don't know. Maybe an astronaut, maybe Batman, maybe Santa. No, a spider." And the grandfather smiles lovingly, and they walk off into the sunset hand in hand with the grandfather thinking to himself, "A spider? Something's wrong with this kid." But then you fast forward a little bit to when you're no longer a little kid. Maybe you've, I don't know, just graduated from college. Maybe it's been a year or so since you graduated from college, and someone asks the same question, but with a different inflection this time. What are you going to be when you grow up? You hear the difference, musicians? Right? And while a spider may still be the right answer, it's unlikely to go over well, and believe me, I have tried. There is a better answer than spider, believe it or not, and I'll give it to you in a minute, and spoiler alert, you already know the answer. So here's the thing. A lot of people around this time of year talk of the places you'll go, and the diverging roads and paths and things, and the importance of taking the road less traveled. But all of you, every single one of you, everyone in this room, you already hit a fork in the road. And you thought to yourself, and I'm not allowed to curse, but you can insert that where you want. You thought to yourself, yeah, I'm not taking either of these roads. And instead, you went headfirst right into the woods, blazing your own trail. And this is good, because it's the woods that all heroes start the journey. You're about to hit the woods again. And all these years post-graduation, they have some deep and dark woods. But guess what? Even people who take a lesser or more trod path eventually find themselves in the woods at some point in their lives. No exceptions. In fact, our main man Dante, in that page-turner that is the Inferno, said, "In the middle journey of our life, I came to myself in a dark wood." And then he wrote a book about it, and he called it The Inferno. But here's the thing. While for many, the woods represent fear and a loss of direction, for you, they represent something very, very different. Believe it or not, you first entered the woods when you first picked up your instrument or sang your song. It was clear that you had found your way through them when, like everyone else in this room, you became the best musician in your high school. Wasn't that great? Remember that? You, by blasting through the woods with your art, whether you knew it or not at the time, became a guide of sorts for all of those other kids. But then, you show up at Berklee, where guess what? Everyone was the best musician in their high school. Different kind of woods. But here you are, 4, maybe 5 years later. Feels like a second and a million years at the same time, right? You made it through again. And now you're about to head into some dark woods again. You see a pattern, right? But the woods of 2016 are dark and full of fear, with people deeply divided and deeply entrenched in their own ideologies, with real disdain for any other way of thinking, and increasingly a desire to build walls. Right? You got to keep one type of person out and another type of person in, and the person they always want to kick out is some kind of other. Right? But you know what? Art doesn't like walls. You know what else? It's not laws or government or politician that break down walls. They follow the lead of the artist who goes out into the woods first and shows these governments and politicians the way to go. So I stand here and I think of Scott Joplin, and I think of Louis Armstrong, and I think of Paul Robeson, and I think of Miles Davis, and I think of Prince, and I think of the Isley brothers, who have much better hats than I have, and also sunglasses. I was not informed that I could wear sunglasses. And I think of the South Bronx, where African American voices were reclaimed by people literally like DJ Kool Herc, jacking into power lines for speakers and reappropriating the beats that had been stolen from them by scratching out breakbeats and calling for change through their rap. And the brothers and sisters, unable to gain access to dance schools, putting down a piece of cardboard on the ground and inventing breakdance. And I think of the brothers and the sisters like Jean-Michel Basquiat, who was unable to gain access to either art school or even canvases, turning a city into their own canvas with graffiti on trains. And I think of one of our greatest prophets, Mr. Chuck D. A guy who called his band Public Enemy. And a guy who named a record Fear of a Black Planet. And I think of a kid somewhere in Middle America, and Middle America is not a place, it's a state of mind, who had been indoctrinated into a world of walls and a world of fear. And let's just say it, okay? A world of racism. And I think of that kid hearing Public Enemy, or Run DMC, or I don't know, Kendrick Lamar, or Hamilton. And all of a sudden, this tight-fisted circle starts to expand. And something that seemed so deep and dark and scary now seemed kind of great. No longer the other, these artists led him through the woods. It's not just race, of course. Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, or Slater Kenny, or the Riot Girls, or Esperanza Spalding, or Rita Moreno. Did I get you just as you were putting something out of your mouth? That's some timing, right? We coordinated that earlier. She said, wait until I'm evacuating something from my mouth before the cameras come on. Or I think of Rita Moreno, who reclaimed the voice for women. Or I think of disco, which reclaimed and gave voice to the LGBTQ community, that led the way for things like gay marriage. And I think of the he who was Antony, of Antony and the Johnstons, who is finally able to go by who she has always been, Anne Honey. And she is now featured in the New York Times. What leads, guys? What leads? And do you really think she isn't leading some people who are lost in their own dark woods of identity conflict through? All of these people, and oh so many more, expanded the circle through their art, whether they intended to or not. That's what art does. It shows us through the woods. It turns something that is a scary other into something relatable, something understandable, and something beautiful. Art is an empathy machine. And don't you think we need some expansions of circles now? More than ever, because say it with me, more art equals less war. Say it, more art equals less war. And so for you, this trailblazing you do not only allows you to understand what it's like to be in the woods, but because going to the woods is the natural state of the artist and the unnatural state for everyone else, you do indeed blaze the trail for others. And that is what you do. And it is what you have been doing. And so when someone with a sort of arch inflection asks, "What are you going to do when you grow up?" you answer them, "I make art." And you do that whether it's through your music or your business or your teaching or whatever you do. You bring art into it. And you do it with power, you do it with pride, with purpose, and never, ever with apology. Because there is no more important thing to do, and we are counting on you. And I'm so honored to have the opportunity to speak for every other person, faculty member, parent, grandparent in this room to say that we believe in you, and we're counting on you. And I'll fight back the tears and say, we love you. Thank you very much.